And thank you, Vidar, Vítor, and Megumi for joining us today. Unfortunately, Vanessa Small is out sick today, so we'll have a smaller group for our discussion on sustainability. Very broad topic for a 1-hour discussion. But maybe to start, if we could do a round of introductions, maybe we'll start with you, Vidar. Just a brief intro on your company and how you view or define sustainability.
Yeah, I'm Vidar van der Meijden, head of product machines. At Prolific Machines, we believe that light is the best way to control biology. And we've developed a set of tools and a platform that we call our photomolecular platform that allows us to control cells in many different ways. And some of the ways that are relevant to this audience is that we can remove the need for growth factors in the media, which is a huge cost driver, as well as express proteins and control protein expression, which you can use, for instance, to drive differentiation or to produce food-grade proteins in mammalian cells, allowing us to bring this new application to life in different food applications. Next to that, we're expanding into pharma applications. So we're basically working really broadly, partnering with companies both in the food and pharma space. My background is in physics, and I've been in the semiconductor equipment industry for a long time. Shifting to this industry was really exciting because it's just an opportunity for us. The more successful we are as an industry, the bigger our impact, and I think that's what we'll be talking about today. So I'm excited for this panel.
Hi everyone. Hi everyone. So my name is Vítor Espírito Santo. I'm currently the head of cell biology at Hoxton Farms. So Hoxton Farms is a company based in London that is focused on the production of cultivated fat. The main goal is to improve current options in the market, specifically plant-based meats, and try to bring and elevate the quality of those products so that we can increase their consumption and nutrition in the market. Our approach is to combine machine learning and mathematical modeling with genome engineering strategies and also hardware engineering. So we design our own bioreactors. It's one of our main components in the company. And the idea is to also solve some of the issues that were already brought up in previous panels regarding scalability and cost of hardware in general. But also, more importantly as well, is having a very transparent approach towards genome engineering. So we do believe that the way for us to achieve the cost economics that are needed for cultivated meat or cultivated fat production involve the optimization of cells. So essentially that's our approach. We are more focused on porcine fat at the moment, but we're species agnostic and open to also collaborations in the space. So very nice to be here and looking forward for the discussion.
Hi, I'm president of Japan Association for Cellular Ag. It's called, in short, it's called JACA. So we have currently over 50 corporate members and also academic panels as well. We create policy recommendations and industrial guidelines in Japan. We communicate with various ministries like Ministry of Economy, Ministry of Agriculture, or Consumer Affairs, or Ministry of Health. And half of the budget is coming from the government funding from Ministry of Economy, and we proceed discussions around safety, labeling, consumer research in Japan. And myself is one of the advisors for Ministry of Economy to promote the biomanufacturing industry in Japan, and also administrative organization. JACA is an admin organization for Food Tech Public-Private Council, which is under the Ministry of Agriculture for promoting food technology. And maybe my personal definition of sustainability, in my view, is the sustainability of Japanese economy and international presence, actually. So, because of the two reasons. First is because we are try to do the policy making in Japan. We try to be the same mindset as the Japanese government. And so Japanese government also need to take care about the environment, but also need to consider about the Japanese economy. And the final reason is that personally, I'm not interested in cell ag field at first. I was more interested in how the emerging technology and regulation can relate together, especially the regulatory design to mitigate the risk of emerging technology, but also leverage the potential of it. So yeah, thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. So from each of your company and organizational perspectives, what do you see as the greatest acute challenges that the cultivated meat industry faces today? And do you have any thoughts on potential solutions? Maybe we'll get to that next. But first question being, what is the most acute challenge in regards to sustainability?
There's a couple of challenges, I think. One major challenge is funding at the moment, and in order for us as an industry to have the impact that we promised this world, there's a need for us to be able to scale, and that will require capital. So I think that is, as an industry-wide challenge, I think that is a huge challenge. I think the other part is making sure that kind of companies can leverage the developments that each of us have delivered so far in order to make sure that we can actually scale this up in a profitable way. So I think those are some of the big challenges. I think for making it economically viable and making sure that we have a scalable process, that's where we believe light is an important solution to that challenge. Allowing us to remove growth factors in the media and allowing us to control cells at a very fundamental level really kind of changes that perspective on and the economics of these of the scale-up equation, and that's where we're very excited to be working on. And just the fact that we can use light also removes basically light is a very low energy input. We're not talking about photosynthesis. We're talking about cell signaling. So it's actually you only require just a little bit of light in order to have the signaling to the cells. So we also remove a large part of the energy input to the cell culture, which basically again helps us to both scale from an economic sustainability perspective, but also from an environmental sustainability perspective.
I think sometimes the main challenge actually is related with the focus that a lot of the cultivated meat companies have right now, because we need to demonstrate that this is a technology that is possible to accomplish at scale, and that meets the economics that are needed for it to be competitive with the conventional meat producers. So in a way, a lot of times sustainability might not come as the first element when companies are thinking about their strategy for the next 3 to 5 years. It's all about developing a product that meets quality standards. It's about reducing the cost of the media, increasing the cell densities. So that itself is already such a big venture that then introducing sustainability into the discussion can become at times a lower priority. So it's interesting now, I feel like the second and third generation companies in the space have an opportunity to introduce that at a much earlier stage. And I do think at Hoxton, for instance, we're doing that as we are considering a new bioreactor designs. And there's an opportunity to incorporate more of that sustainability angle, thinking in types of materials and like breaking away from maybe more traditional stir tank steel bioreactors. And so that's essentially how we're seeing it. But for me, that's one of the biggest limitations when it comes to sustainability in cultivated meat.
So my challenge right now is, even if option is sustainable, sometimes the option is really hard to be socially implemented. So so when it comes to cellular agriculture social implementation, the largest challenge we're having right now is in short, lack of resources, but in the long context, for example, we are lack of expert who can assess, for example, the safety of cultivated food right now, for example, in JACA, we have, as I said, 50 corporate members, but actually the representatives from each companies who gathers our internal committee are mainly from R&D or new business development or CEO office. So when we try to talk about the safe implementation of cell ag, there are no safety experts. So at first we try to, hire some teachers who can teach like what is food safety to the R&D people, but then realize that, okay, maybe we need to form a expert committee outside of our community who has a knowledge in many aspects of food safety, like allergy or nutrition or like toxicology, so that those experts can build their own knowledge to assess the information which is coming from overseas or which is on the FDA website. Because without such, external expert who can evaluate the importance or safe implementation of such technology, we cannot proceed deployment. So the lack of expert, or in short, resources, is very important right now.
Great, thanks. And Vítor, you brought up a really interesting point in that the first generation of companies in this industry, I think we're almost primarily mission-driven, whether that mission was sustainability or animal welfare. And now that, we are definitely facing these very challenging macro conditions, do you find that the sustainability sort of aspects of the mission are taking a backseat to the economic?
Yeah, I think the industry has evolved quite a bit. When I joined the space back in 2018, I remember I felt that it was much more prevalent and dominant, I would say, the animal activism, the environmental direction. I think that was something that almost everyone that founded the cellular agriculture space came from that sort of angle. And we started having more scientists from other industries merging to this space, and that started a shift as well. So obviously the first companies, I think, I'm a little suspect. I spent a lot of time working at Good Meat, so that was one of the players that I would say led the first wave. And I think the goal was always to break through as quick as possible, but because we know that we don't have so much time when it comes to environmental aspects. There's a change that needs to happen, and for that to be still doable in our lifetime, we needed to move very quickly. So I feel that, but obviously there's challenges, right? There's challenges, again, not to repeat myself, but regarding scalability and all, they're well known. So now it's great to see that maybe the new generations of companies are more focused on important scientific breakthroughs that are needed to achieve these very ambitious goals. And I think that's something, even if it's done at smaller scales. And I think that is very interesting to see what's going to be the development that will come from companies like Prolific, from Hoxton and others in the space. And I think it's a very welcome opportunity, and I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think maybe if I can add to that, I think kind of, as a cultivated meat workforce, our most precious resource is time, right? Like, as humans, our most precious resource is time. And I think the fact that you guys are all here and that we are all here and still working on this, if we didn't believe that it was possible and if we didn't believe that it made sense, then we shouldn't be here, because then we should be focusing on something else, and we should be, spending our most precious resource on a different activity. We still really strongly believe that cultivated meat has a future and that there's ways to make it both nutritious and affordable. And I think, there's so many, we just see so many innovations in the field coming up recently that I think give me a lot of confidence that we're still spending our time wisely working on cultivated meat. And it's still very much both a worthwhile pursuit and a feasible pursuit.
Maybe so in my perspective, even if we try to implement it, there are so many challenges that are there, because even if we gather people, it doesn't mean that we can create like policy recommendations or create some idea which can accelerate the discussions. We can support the discussion in which is done in ministries. So we are try to, of course, it's important to have opinions gathered in the R&D sections, but it's also important to have other experts in the field and evaluate the cell ag field in the various ways. And I hope this aspect can help accelerate the discussion in this area.
Great, thank you. And of course, consumers, B2B customers, corporate partners, and investors are demanding more substantial proof when it comes to the sustainability claims of cultivated meat. So what, in your opinion, are the best ways to measure our sustainability claims?
Yeah, I believe LCA works, but I think what is important is the localization of LCA in each country. And maybe, for example, in Japan, we import like 75% of feed from outside of Japan. So maybe it can be considered, or maybe the energy mix or the future forecast of it can also should be considered as well. And also, when we often talk with the consumer organization about the environmental impact, and then they would like to kind of understand the how to say, for example, if we change the input number, sometimes the outcome can drastically change. So they would like to understand like how the LCA mechanism works and how the input can affect in the outcome results, so that they can just feel that they understand the logic behind the LCA, and they don't blindly believe the number itself.
Yeah, I definitely feel LCA studies matter. They can be challenging, and we have had even examples in the industry, like there was a controversial LCA study published by University of Davis, right? UC Davis, and it all depends on the inputs, right? And at the end of the day, there's still a lot of unknowns, right? And different companies are using different cell types, are using different bioreactors, and even the companies that are more advanced, there's still a gap into what their process will be at scale. So it's all based on assumptions. And that can be a challenge. Of course, if we want to make claims that our process is more sustainable, we need to have studies that support that. Otherwise, it's just false claims. So in that sense, we cannot just stop doing it, but it's important to also take them with a grain of salt and really consider if they're the best option. I personally also like the idea of companies being a little open about their progress in terms of the key performance indicators. Like if we have a sort of a 5-year roadmap and you're looking at how the cell densities or how the media costs have improved, the types of inputs that are being considered, I think that's a way as well of demonstrating that the technology is sustainable. And even obviously the recent paper from Believer Meats is also a good direction. Having more of those studies showing that there's a future, there's a direction there, I think that can support besides LCA. Just one final note on that. I do think LCAs are very useful when it comes to designing facilities. So I was involved in an LCA study for a design of a large-scale manufacturing facility. And it's really nice the way that you can sort of formulate and plan accordingly based on the results. And to support Megumi's point, we were comparing with conventional meat production numbers from different countries, and it was incredible how that changed. So a lot of countries had a big difference in terms of their efficiency in production of conventional chicken and conventional beef. So it's great. It's a great resource for us to be able to develop new technologies in a more sustainable way.
Yeah, I think there's. I'm actually curious, maybe if I can get a show of hands of people here who have had to provide an LCA as part of a funding, like, well, actually, that's encouraging, but I do think it shows that is a minority of the cases, and that still the economics of this opportunity are very important, and usually the first thing that investors ask about. And I think also that's the right thing, right? Like if we cannot make this affordable, then even though our life cycle analyses are great and we make the most the best product and we beat chicken in terms of conversion efficiency, then still we won't make a dent into this problem. So I think they need to go hand in hand, and we need to have both. And I think that's something that kind of these pressures on both on the economical side recently are kind of pushing the industry towards maybe being a little bit more scrappy. But I think with that scrappiness also comes opportunities to you know, there is a correlation between making a very expensive bioreactor and the environmental impact of that bioreactor. So if we can find ways to reduce costs, to reduce the number of inputs into the process, that will make the economics work, but it also will likely drive the environmental impact. And that's what you see in the LCAs, right? Like the UC Davis one that you talked to kind of looked at what they consider the state of the art, which, you know, honestly is hard to see because we don't share a lot of information, all of us. But they looked at what they consider to be the state of the art, and they said, well, we're not great. And I don't think anybody here would dispute that. Like as a field, I think we know like we're not there yet, right? It's kind of, I think, the theme of this conference is, you know, something with realism and optimism. So I think if we're realistic about where we are now, then we know that we're not there yet, and that we will need new solutions in order to get to where we want to be. And other LCAs, the CE Delft one, show that there's a very clear path for us to be to have a better conversion efficiency, to have lower impact. But the way to get there is challenging, and I think that's where kind of collaborations and working together. I think all speakers that I've heard so far are calling for it. We are calling for it because we think that this industry can succeed. We are optimistic to that point. But when we're realistic about where we are now, then I think we need to identify ways that we can collaborate and that we can leverage technologies that different companies have developed. And we're very excited to work with partners to make animal protein production a lot more affordable. And yeah, we're going to have some exciting things to share about this in the near future.
Yeah, and I think there is an awareness that LCAs are far from a perfect way of measuring the environmental impact. They are not a gold standard by any means, but they were sort of the standard that we had available to us over the last 15 or so years. And I think that'll be, you know, if anyone else has any thoughts to share on that, maybe that's something to bring up in the Q&A discussion portion. But yes, another way to kind of move the industry forward. And, you know, I'd like to, it's a difficult time in the industry, of course, we can all kind of acknowledge that, and I would love for us to kind of bring in some hope and motivation in this discussion. And so I'd love to ask each of you, what gives you hope and keeps you motivated, especially in regards to sustainability in your work?
Well, it's a difficult question because our position right now is that we need to be prepared for the information war because, you know, surrounding the emerging technology, especially when it comes to the one which can be disruptive to existing business. Our position right now is, okay, so in order to understand the sustainable impact of sustainability of cell ag, we need a technology basis domestically because there aren't so many, you know, publicly available information and data, and some LCA doesn't provide input numbers or assumptions and logics behind it. So in order to assess the importance of new technology, we need an information basis so that we can trust and directly ask questions to it. So in that sense, it's not directly related to sustainability itself, but in order to be kind of as flexible as possible and to be kind of to not to like overreact or underestimate existing information, as a national strategy, we need to be prepared for this new trend by the implementation part. And it can also, when we talk with the government, I told them every day, but it can also support the existing like meat industry, because understanding the potential and limitation of emerging technology can also help the farmers to differentiate their existing business and add value in a different perspective. So as a national and I don't know, like survival strategy, we still support to kind of to like deepening down the understanding of emerging tech in CELAC.
So as a scientist, I think the science keeps me going. So that I think won't stop. But I like the idea of also consolidation. I think there's obviously a lot of companies that popped up over the last 5 years, but I do think with a natural consolidation that will occur over the next few years, there's an opportunity to actually merge maybe some of the best examples and technologies from different companies and get perhaps a superpower in the cultivated meat space. So I think that's exciting. Of course, it's easier said than done. So synergies and conversations need to happen for that. I'm also particularly excited about the hybrid product category. I do think that the plant-based space is also going through a rough period. And I do think if we can combine the advantages of cultivated, for instance, cultivated fat with plant-based products to really boost the taste and the quality traits of those products to get better consumer reception and drive those numbers, I think that ultimately reaches our goal of sustainability, because we know that can be a more sustainable product down the line than conventional meat production. So I think that's something that I'm particularly looking for, and at least the work that we're doing at Hoxton Farms show really promising data points for that.
Yeah, I echo your point on kind of it being healthy for an industry like ours to have some level of consolidation. I think too much cash in an early industry is not always a good thing. So I think the kind of economic pressure that we see as a industry now, I think is a kind of a healthy thing. I think it forces us to be smarter. It forces us. It can force us to collaboration. I don't know that it always does. So I think for us to think about where we can find those collaborations and find those partners, I think and seeing that there is readiness of parties to do that in our discussions, I think that gives me a lot of optimism. And I think if we look at the state of the science, and although we cannot know what is going on in all these companies that are still somewhat secretive, if we look at the state of the science, I think we do see a lot of the fundamentals for this industry to work. We do see that kind of popping up, right? So we see people publishing very high cell densities. We're seeing, shameless plug. We believe that we can remove an important part of the media cost. We think we can drive differentiation into more valuable products, right? So across the industry, I do think there's a very broad sense of like all these kind of fundamental requirements that are required for this industry to be successful. And I think people that might have passed up on a funding opportunity a couple of years ago, they might see that, but the challenge is going to be how do we leverage that? And I think if I can add one more. One thing is when you start to look at, and I think the efforts that you guys are doing in kind of getting governments on board, getting governments on board and getting onto new sources of funding. Once you reach a certain scale, there's a lot more funding available. Also in the U.S. and I think in many countries, there are options to get like large infrastructural projects funded. So I think for me, the optimism is that I think all the signs are there that we will be able to kind of span this valley of death and then get to a stage where it's de-risked enough, either to kind of bring to a funding opportunity like that, like a governmental funding opportunity, or where a large strategic player says, yeah, I believe that this can work. I feel it's sufficiently de-risked. I have the amino acids, I have the glucose, I can actually bring this to scale. And if there's anyone from any of those companies in the audience, I think that's my call to action to these partners, because I think there's a couple of companies in this world that are supremely well positioned to make cultivated meat work. I think it's up to us and most of the people in this room to get the technology to a state where it's possible, where it's de-risked far enough for them to say, like, yes, I want to put my money behind it. And that will require us to partner, and that will require us to bring new technologies into an industrial size that gives them that confidence.
A very hopeful note indeed, and I think, yeah, you make a really great point. If you're in this room right now, and if you're watching on the live stream, you have self-selected yourself as someone who is quite committed to the future success of this industry. And so I think if any of the other panelists have any calls to action that you might ask of this group, please feel free to use the next couple minutes.
I think one of the topics that was brought up in one of the previous panels, I support that as well, which is the idea of creating these sort of manufacturing hubs. Even though, again, there might be differences between scale-up processes between different companies, the capex involved to build a large commercial facility is way too high for a company or a VC fund to subsidize. So in that sense, having some sort of government supported hubs that could really support manufacturing capabilities for multiple companies in the space, I think that would be great. So in that sense, companies can get together and really lobby for that. It's happening already. There's a lot of initiatives going around the globe. But we do see how attention from governments can make a difference. Like in countries like Singapore, with the first approval, the support from the government was fundamental. So I would say that that's one of the biggest call to actions. And also, if a company is perhaps struggling at this stage, maybe it's the best time to reach out and see if there are synergies that can happen with other players in the space, because there might be good technology that is available for us to make something out of it.
So regarding the call of action from my side, so of course R&D and like development itself is very important, but I also would like industry associations all over the world regarding the cell ag to be as active as possible, because we really need, for example, in Japan, the food safety regulation team only have like 4 or 5 people, and who are covering, in addition to cell ag, they are covering precision fermentation, gene-edited food or GMO food, and functional food. If you are aware of the status in Japan, currently we are having a huge incident in the functional food. There were kind of like death case related to red yeast rice-based supplement. So it's also covered by the same team. So, and the government don't have time to, ask for opinion of each company. So it's really important to gather together. Of course, there are some like information that you cannot disclose, but for example, regarding the safety, we can, share the concept of how to understand safety or logics behind it, even if it can not be related to trade secrets sometimes, or you can, separate the information. So I believe this, please maybe be supportive to your local industry association, because it can eventually help or accelerate the discussion in your local government.
Thank you.
Yeah, if I can add one. If there's any challenges that you guys are currently trying to solve, where basically you're trying to make the cells do something, you need one phenotype in one stage of your process and a different phenotype in another stage of your process. You're trying to reduce your media cost and then have a signaling molecule that you need to get rid of. Let's talk about how we can use light to solve your biggest challenges, because I do think that light is the best way to control biology. And yeah, we're very excited to be part of this ecosystem and to partner with all the great companies that are out there and make this industry a success. So looking forward to talking to you. And if you want to shoot me an email, Vidar at prolific-machines.com. Always feel free. Happy to chat. So thanks.
Great. Well, that brings us to our Q&A portion. Any questions from the audience in regards to sustainability of the industry?
High confidence in the sustainability of our industry.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then let's see here. I mean, this one, I think we're all kind of wondering it, but I guess in terms of investor interest, have you all noticed that there is just less emphasis on sustainability in some of the conversations you're having right now with investors?
I think there's exactly as much interest. I think that interest is usually expressed more on a, the aspiration that they have with making the investment, not necessarily in the nitty gritty. But I think investors. I think something that I had to come to understand is that investors need to, especially VC, need to make their fund back in 7 years. So the only thing that they care about and that they're beholden to is to kind of make sure that they make back the fund. Yeah, we need to enable them to do that. So if we're going to be successful, we need to both make sure that we're making the economic fundamentals work, and that we do that in a way that it's actually good for this planet, because that is a key money source at the moment, and I think that's what just the mechanics of that funding stream. And we were very excited to raise a Series B earlier this year, so it's still possible, but making sure that those fundamentals are there is going to be the most important thing for them.
I think that comes more from potential clients and partners, at least from my experience, maybe not so much from investors. I do think some of more established food producers in the business do see opportunities to partner with companies in the cultivated space as also a way of channeling their greener side. So that's always been one of the experiences I had in different fundraisers I've been involved. Lately, I think obviously it's not so. I don't think it's as prevalent again, and the product quality is often the most common sort of a trait that both investors and partners are interested in. So does cultivated meat, does cultivated fat provide that extra, those superior qualities that we're looking for? At the end of the day, companies have demonstrated it can be produced, it can be approved by different regulatory agencies. Can it make a difference? And I think that's a question that a lot of companies have not demonstrated, I would say. So I think it's really important also to focus on product quality again, and the opportunity to merge with a plant-based industry and really bring those hybrid prototypes into a commercial product. So that's usually where I see most interest from both partners and also investors recently.
So our finding so we get sometimes some consultations from member companies about finding better partners, right partners in Japan. Actually, that's not that kind of matchmaking is not our core business, though. We see that we also need to cover that aspects as well. And in Japan, because VCs are not as active enough compared to the US, for example, but there are lots of business operator investor CVCs or and so many several not several but many ingredient or sales network type of company are investing in cultivated field as a business opportunity. So my role right now is helping them, helping Japanese companies right partners in tech or maybe business in cell ag, and finding support Japanese companies to find their strengths in the cell ag field so that they can be more motivated to commit to the government, commit to this industry. Sorry, yeah.
Great. Any questions from the audience at this point?
I have a question geared towards really, I'll stand on the marker here. I have a question that's geared towards culture at your workplaces. So for Vidar and Vítor, you have incredible colleagues. And earlier in the panel, we were talking about how there might have been kind of like a mission-driven approach to a lot of these companies in the beginning. But how are some ways your team really gets people excited about the food system and really kind of gets everybody's hopes up in this type of environment? And for Megumi, how do you do the same, but for regulators and incumbents in the space?
So at least at Hoxton, we have a great food culture. So usually we get people excited around the table. So we get together on Fridays and happy hours, and we just organize these big dinners and like theme nights, and just celebrating the diversity of different regions and countries where we all come from. So it's actually, I think, even the foundation of the company from Max and Ed, the co-founders, is actually their love for food. Maybe not so focused on specifically cultivated, but it's just like, how can we make it again more sustainable, but still develop these great products? And I feel that that's truly the culture that we have generated there. So everyone really gets excited about innovation as well and developing tasty products. We also often have what we call Taste Tuesdays, so in which we get to try different plant-based products that are commercially available in the UK. Sometimes we also get samples from other countries or from partners, and we just get to try them and see, hey, how can we make this better? We get some opinions around, and it just gets like a very vibrant culture. So in a way, I would say that's how we kind of get everyone hyped about what we're doing and not being so bored by doing maybe 10 hours of passaging in the cell culture lab. So that's our approach there, at least.
Yeah, relatable. So I think we have lunch every day with the whole team. So I think that's been really big in culture building. And I think we didn't have to do a lot of work to build a culture around the kind of being motivated to make a sustainable impact, because people that apply to this and apply to a startup like ours, it's not easy. It's quite a lot of work. So in order to be able to enjoy it, it just requires people that are motivated in that way. So I think we have a team that is very much aligned with the mission in that sense, and that also creates an environment where people are willing to step up and do what's necessary. I think going towards a model where we are working with industry partners, I think was a bit of a shift for people, but I think they also see the value in that, because we know like there's so many exciting developments at all these companies going on. Like we're not the only ones that do great science, So I think it's kind of shifted a little bit from a moment where we're like, oh, okay, how is this working? To okay, yeah, we want to work with these companies. We want to engage with them. We want to see how we can leverage what we have developed to kind of level up what they are doing, and that has really created a new level of excitement in the team that I think is really really great to see, and that we hope that we can continue to build on. And, raising around is always a good motivator for a team, so that was great too.
Yeah, and regarding the communication with the government, we are trying to be as supportive as possible to by finding out their pain in the government's internal process, and maybe what's the lacking information or that the government official would like to have when they try to persuade their boss for example. So for right now, as one example, we are creating a list of analysis of each companies in Japan. What's their strengths? What's their current existing business portfolio and technology portfolio, which can be leveraged in cell ag field, and in the end, what kind of market they can access. So sometimes, some statistics figures or assumption figures coming from consulting company doesn't help that much to motivate or maybe motivate the government officials, or they understand the general concept of it, but they would like to feel it more real, that the Japan can have the winning strategy in this market. And in order to create a more concrete story, or to make them believe, we try to be as sometimes try to collect information as specific as possible, and try to be focused on what's the lacking information among them. And also we help the different ministries in Japan. They are not good at communicating with each other, so they ask me about what is happening in other ministries or in the politicians level or in the cabinet office level. So we try, because I said there are not so many people in the government officials, and they cover so many other things as well. So we try to be kind of supported regarding the information flow among them. And then we are trying to kind of stop them being worn out. So yeah, that's
a lot of responsibility.
Yes, and very tiring, but exciting as well. Yeah.
Was there? Yes, Onye.
You guys have probably you all have probably alluded to part of this through your responses, but how do the countries that you're in, how does that impact your approach to building a sustainable food system? You probably have like an awareness of the larger global movement, but just kind of how does the local context change your approach?
That's a good question. We're in the US, so we're in that sense lucky that a lot of the regulatory pathways have been established more than in some other countries, especially when it comes to making it clear what do you need to show in order to get a product to market. So I think that for companies in this space makes it a little bit easier to navigate. I think the European Union still is challenging. So I think the local another part is, and that's I think an important part, is that in the US the GMO is much less of a topic, and that makes it easier, I think, to get to cell lines that basically meet the fundamentals, and to apply solutions like ours. There are ways that we're talking about European partners too, but it's more challenging, I think, in the EU.
The UK is a kind of unique environment because of Brexit, so it does follow its own path, which comes with opportunities and challenges. My understanding is actually, in terms of conventional meat production in the UK, is a lot less efficient than the one in the US. So there's an appetite for even from an economy perspective to improve and develop an alternative. So we really want to take advantage of that. From a market perspective, there seems to be an openness to this type of products. So we also want to capitalize on it. But at the same time, we want to take advantage of the regulatory approvals. So even though we're based in the UK, there's an interest in targeting Singapore, US, because obviously there's been more progress in terms of regulatory pathway. So looking at it from a universal kind of broad perspective. But yeah, I think it's an exciting opportunity there, because we have a way of maybe getting an approval and commercialization faster than the rest of Europe.
So in Japan, maybe I can raise 3 quick examples to motivate and also the local topic. So first one is we don't have any novel food regulations, so that makes Japan discussion in Japan really complicated. And the second one is because we have like Wagyu farming and other like huge farming industry which have a lot of political power. So we need to find a good story for the so that the government can use as an excuse of creating a legal framework about the market launch of cell-based meat. And sometimes it's really difficult. For example, we cannot stress too much about the environmental impact because it indirectly accuses and sometimes we cannot say about creating a job opportunity because some farmers are afraid of young people not doing farming but like going to the cell ag field instead of the farming industry. So we needed to be really, really careful about creating story, but we try to be supported in that aspect as well. And the third one is maybe it relates to some advancement in Asia also, or maybe similar country as Japan can also motivate government discussion, especially in South Korea, because for example in Singapore it's kind of they have a very different environment as Japan. They don't have farming lobby in the country, or maybe some advancement in China. We're not sure about the total investment volume, what is happening in China right now. Of course we understand at the policy level, but we're not sure about how serious they are. And if we can see the seriousness, maybe we can relate, maybe we can bring up the topic of like geopolitics. But right now it's the information, based on the information available right now about China, it's not enough to bring such risk on the table. But in South Korea, they have the almost the same situation as us. Like they have the farming industry lobby, and we have some similarity in the technology's strengths. So I see a lot of potential after we see some advancement in South Korea about the regulatory free zone and new framework about safety. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Megumi, and thank you to all of our panelists, Vítor and Vidar, for this conversation, and to our hosts. Thank you all for joining us. Thanks.
Thank you.